The time on Mount Hermon. Jesus bought a donkey and hired a lad named Tiglath to go with him via the Damascus road to Beit Jin, a village in the foothills of Mount Hermon. There he secured lodging for Tiglath. The first day, this was about the middle of August, A.D. 25, Jesus had Tiglath go with him part of the way up Mount Hermon. At about 6,000 feet above sea level, they found a place to build a stone shelter where Tiglath could put food and water for Jesus twice a week. Jesus then sent Tiglath back down the mountain, and he continued up the slope. After a short way, Jesus stopped to pray. Among other things, Jesus asked his Father to release the angels that were then watching over him so they could watch over Tiglath instead. God granted this request, which meant Jesus had only his thought adjuster to guide him through this final test of his mortal experience. Jesus was on Mount Hermon to fight and defeat, in a real and literal sense, the superhuman archenemies who had been opposing his rule in the system of Satania. These struggles were actually more battles of truth, faith, and loyalty, and took Jesus 6 weeks to complete. During this solitude on the mountain, Jesus finished his mortal task of mastering his mind and personality, and he achieved the mortal goal of absolute harmony with his indwelling thought adjuster. Jesus now knew with absolute certainty that he was a creator son of God, and he was prepared to let his divine self supersede his human nature. After 5 weeks of intense communion with his paradise Father, Jesus asked to meet his archenemies as the Son of Man, Joshua ben Joseph. God again granted his request. This event was the great temptation, the universe trial of the rebels of Satania. This temptation had nothing to do with earthly matters like food, glory, or the kingdoms of humanity. Those presentations of these events were only offered to humanity because of the world's backward and childlike thought at the time. But people today and in the future need to know that this was a real test of human loyalty. Jesus chose to be a man. In other words, a mortal with no spiritual power except his faith in and loyalty to his paradise Father in heaven. When he fought against the lies and treason of once mighty and glorious spiritual beings. On Mount Hermon, Satan, who is representing Lucifer and our Earth's rebel planetary prince, Caligastia, were made visible to Jesus. On behalf of Lucifer, these two tried many times and in many ways to bargain with Jesus. But to every attempt they made, Jesus would only say, "May the will of my paradise Father prevail, and you, my rebellious son, may the ancients of days judge divinely. I am your Creator Father. I can hardly judge you justly, and my mercy you have already spurned. I commit you to the adjudication of the judges of a greater universe." When this struggle was over, Jesus' angels that had left him and were watching over Tiglath returned to minister to their Creator. This event completed Jesus' task of living the full mortal life in the flesh, and gained Michael of Nebadon unquestioned ultimate authority over his universe. While this accomplishment was not broadcast to the universe until his later baptism by John in the Jordan River, it took place that day. The Lucifer rebellion in Satania and Caligastia's secession on earth were settled, and Jesus was ready to return to his Father's business.